Welcome everyone to the first video for the league Wannabe Studs.
Well, it's finally here. We took long enough to make this video, but I'm Kyle Vergowan.
I'm Steve Dodson. I'm your commissioner.
And I'm your co-commissioner, which means I have all the powers but none of the fame.
And I can take them off anytime I want.
You didn't tell me that.
No, I wasn't going to.
Alright, so first we want to start by saying if you're part of this league, thank you so much for joining. Hopefully these videos are funny and informative and something that just you find a little bit of fun to watch every week.
And every week we'll probably be posting on Wednesday. Probably not as late as this video. We had to record it. Hopefully we're going to start doing these live once YouTube lets me and verifies my account. But until then, we'll just have normal videos posted every week. Wednesday usually before the Thursday game, after everyone's done their waiver wire for the week. That way we have all the info for you guys.
Alright, well first we're going to start off with an intro to this league. So what we did for this league, we decided to make the draft order a little bit unusual. And we actually made a survey that we sent out to people on Facebook. We made a post on Reddit. We texted a ton of people, Snapchatted. We tried to get the word out there, and we had people take this survey and rank everybody in the draft by how attractive they were,
with their profile pictures that we got from Facebook. So it's not like we pick and choose. Whatever these guys wanted to represent themselves to the world as is what we used.
We did have one guy in a bunny costume, and yes, he did well. Alright, so I think we should start off by letting everybody know, what people ranked in their attractiveness ratings, because then, depending on what they got, depends on how they got to pick their actual draft order. So number one got to choose whatever spot they wanted in the draft, and
the guy who made the survey got number one. Surprise, surprise. Yeah, but I mean, just connections. He got the number one pick for where he wanted to draft, and he picked the third spot in the draft this year.
Number three.
Second was our friend Cody McCormick. He got the second choice and picked number two. Third, Brian Casello, one of the veterans of the league, who's very good at fantasy, decided to pick number four.
Probably to mess me up, right?
Oh, absolutely. After that, Trevor Coulter, Western New England, had the fourth pick, and he picked number five. As you see, we have a little bit of trend. No one wanted that number one pick. After that, Drew Patrick, another one of LaSalle's graduates, picked the number 7 spot, so skip 6. Jacob Edgar, I haven't met him yet, but this kid has, decided to go with the 6th spot in the draft as the number 6 choice. I got the next pick, and it was between 1, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12, so I had to follow suit and pick number 8.
To be fair, he said from the beginning he wanted 8, so he was very happy. Don't let him fool you.
I did. I did want the 8th pick, and surprisingly got it. After that, Ryan Bond got choice 9 and picked the 12th pick. A little surprised there when it happened. But
no, I think that was a fantastic pick. I think one of the top 4 picks was that last pick, and I think just nailing it is a great idea. I respect it, Ryan.
After that, my friend Drew Hanks, with his team One Ball Wonder, was the 10th choice and had the 10th pick. Easy one. And with the last 2 teams, Steve Parziali had a choice between 1 and 11 and chose the number 1 pick, leaving Tyler Keeley with the number 11 pick in the draft this year.
Now, I gotta say that I think the 1 and 11, which are the last 2 picks, were some of the better picks this year. So, I don't know. You think that the being ugly works sometimes. Oh!
Trust us. None of us are very pretty. Look who's number 1.
Beautiful.
Alright, so now we're going to go through each of the teams based on the order they drafted. And then we're going to give you guys what we think of the teams and how we rank them preseason. So, number 1 pick, Steve Parziali, with his team Parziali.
Name that team, Steve.
Yes, please come up with something better than that. Well, number 1 pick, Le'Veon Bell. I mean, I think that was obvious in almost any league. Unfortunately, with the news today, looks like he might be holding out for a few more weeks. which definitely affects your team.
So
you might want to pick up another guy.
So what do you think? For 2 points, if you had known this in the past, would you pick Gurley over him or someone else like David Johnson, or would you still stay with Le'Veon?
Me personally, I might have picked Todd Gurley first anyways. Definitely has a lot better draft stock right now. He's playing. I mean, Le'Veon's been holding out since he was franchise tagged, but I mean, especially if I knew this before, and absolutely pick someone else. You don't want to start off weak. You need someone there, especially Gurley or David Johnson, to carry your team early in the season.
I was off Le'Veon Bell even before this news. I don't think maybe I believe he'll get top 5, but I don't believe he's going to be number 1. So, do you think? Here's a follow-up question. Do you think that it should have been Parziali's first job, just jump on getting James Conner, who's going to replace him?
Well, again, the real news came out today that he's going to be out for more than a game. So, come tomorrow afternoon, I would hope that he jumps on James Conner, especially if Le'Veon's out for 4 or 5 weeks. He has up until week 11 to sign his contract before he can't become a free agent next year. So you expect him to play a few, but by that time, you might be out of the playoffs.
That would be heartbreaking.
Especially having a number 1 pick like that.
Oof.
All right,
2.
All right, next guy was Cody's team. Again, Cody, name your goddamn team. It's Cody's Choice Team. Come on, man.
Cody's Choice Team. Wow. All right. So, well, we didn't go through this entire team, did we? The first team?
No.
We didn't. That was on me. I did that.
You know what? It's okay. Well, let's put it this way. He's got a solid team. Jared Goff is your starting quarterback. Not bad. Got some upside.
I don't love it, but
he's got some upside. He could get much better from the last few years. Number 1 wide receiver in Adam Thielen. Big upside from last year. Lots of potential. But you still have to be careful if he's your number 1.
Again, I don't love it. I'm on Diggs this year way more than Thielen.
Well, okay. We did another draft. I drafted Thielen over Diggs, and he gave me.
Anyways,
yeah.
Brandon Cooks. Now, see, how do you feel about Cooks? He's coming off 2 back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons with 2 different quarterbacks, but that was Drew Brees and Tom Brady, and this is Jared Goff. Do you believe that it's the receiver and not the quarterback, or what's the case here?
Well, the thing about Cooks is he was in 2 high-powered offenses that love to throw the ball. Goff has a strong arm, and he loves to throw it, but he doesn't really have the offense to do it. He's never been a big, deep threat consistently throughout the season, and maybe Cooks is the one who gives it to him finally, but I don't see him putting up 1,000 yards. I still see him being the number 1 target on that team, getting a lot of looks, a lot of red zone opportunities, but I don't see him getting as nearly close to the numbers he's produced the last 2 seasons.
I agree. I was looking at some stats earlier, and Jared Goff spreads the ball around more than Tom Brady, more than Drew Brees. His top receiver had, I think it was 85 receptions in the year, and usually top 12 receivers get at least 120. So I just don't think the opportunity will be there. I mean, he has the talent, that was obvious. But you have to think there's red flags when both these teams decided he wasn't worth the money and would rather have the pick over him and were willing to trade him away, because if he was really worth the number 1 talent, they wouldn't have signed him to another team and traded him. So it leaves me with red flags. I don't think I love him this year. I mean, I'll take any player at the right price, but at the price he's going, not for me.
Okay, now the one last thing I want to say about his team is, although we said Le'Veon's holding out, he does have some decent running back depth. Devontae Freeman, although not one of my favorites this year, is still a solid option.
Same.
LaShawn McCoy, a little bit injured, a little bit legal action, which I don't think is going to happen.
Though.
Definitely an underdog this year on a Bills team who's not very good, who's probably going to rely on one of their better players. And, surprise, Jordan Wilkins, who was drafted later, is now the starting running back for Indianapolis.
Fantastic.
So, that's a great pick. He's got 3 starters on his team after Le'Veon. He might be able to get away with it.
Potentially 4, depending if you believe Isaiah Correll or Bilal Powell's the starter, but I tend to stay away from the Jets running back. So
I tend to stay away from the Jets.
Well, yeah. And then Chris Thompson, which is an interesting pick here. He was on pace before he got hurt to be the best PPR running back in the game, just based on third down work. But he got hurt, and this is half PPR, so it'll have weeks. He'll have weeks where he's playable, but guessing those weeks might be an interesting story.
He already did make one move, dropping Atlanta's defense and picking up Detroit. I see this here as Detroit's playing the Jets this week, so it looks like his defense is definitely going to be a week-to-week one, where he's just picking up whoever the best matchup is. Which
good
is
choice in Detroit, yeah, absolutely.
Especially against the Jets.
Oh yeah, they're gonna be great.
Jets, you guys suck. All right.
Anything else you want to talk about on this roster? I think one highlight I want to talk about is Jordy. Personally, that's a no for me, but that's a high upside guy because he could get a ton of red zone targets. So I guess we'll see how he does this year.
We'll see. He is looking at the number 2 behind Amari Cooper right now, so you never know. Could get some good opportunities. All right. Now we're gonna move on to Cody's team. Again, like I said, get a name, Cody. Cody's choice team. Not that good.
All right. So he starts off Kirk Cousins as QB. I think he's very solid this year. Obviously, it's a little bit of a downside, the fact that the defense is so good, so they're going to start running it usually in the second half because their defense will just stop any points coming through. But he has Diggs and Thielen to throw to, and Dalvin Cook out of the backfield. I mean, it's just going to be a ton of touchdowns. I think it's a good pick. Not top 5 or top 6 even, but he'll get the job done.
Nice and solid. Going straight to his running backs. He had the number 2 pick, so obviously Todd Gurley was his pick. Great running back, solid. Breakout year last year with huge numbers. Big question, can he keep that performance, that high-level performance going this year? I see it happening, but I don't see him predicting it. He made a lot of big plays against bigger teams last year. I feel like the better teams this year are going to control him a little bit better. He's still going to have great numbers, but it might be a little bit of a down year for him. Maybe one or two less.
Only the 4th best.
Only the 4th best. Maybe 1 or 2 less touchdowns, maybe 100 yards less than last year, but still a great choice for him.
All right. He also has Alex Collins. Alex Collins came to this team last year and absolutely rocked it. I respect the pick. He's going to be the guy that gets all the work. Their backup will be coming in later in the season and could maybe take some work. But by a ton, so they won't ever need to game script a ton of running. And Alex Collins isn't known for his pass catching ability. But he's going to get yards, he'll get goal line work, and that's all he needs. So he's solid RB2, that's what I'd say.
So now on to his wide receivers. He's got his starting 3 right now. Mike Evans, Larry Fitzgerald, and Golden Tate. A solid 3. Mike Evans is definitely one of the top receivers in the league this year, especially in any PPR format. He gets a lot of looks, especially from Jameis Winston once he comes back from the suspension. But Larry Fitzgerald, he's an older guy in the league now.
He is. Can Fitz do it? I mean, I think he was he was in the top 12 wide receivers last year, and people said the same thing. So if he could just continue, he'll be great. But that's a big, red flag. Age always matters. So this is a high risk, high reward pick. It could pay off to be a fantastic wide receiver 1. It could pay off that age has got to him. So
he's also got a new quarterback this year in Sam Bradford. So you might see a little more looks to the veteran player on the team, giving his quarterback some support, or you might see him spread the ball around. That way, Sam Bradford's getting comfortable. You never know with this guy.
It's true. Golden Tate, he's solid. He's nothing amazing. He's not an awesome looking pick. You're not going to make that pick and people are going to go ooh and ah, but he'll get the job done, and he's wide receiver 3, so he doesn't need to do anything more than that, so I respect it.
The one thing I do really like about Cody's team is his tight ends this year. He's got David Njoku from the Cleveland Browns, and on his bench he's got O.J. Howard from Tampa Bay. Both young guys, both a lot of upside. Not very proven, but they have been looking good last year and the preseason. They look like they have some potential and could be a big breakthrough for Cody.
See, that's where I disagree. Njoku is going to be good. I have him as a lot of teams as like a secondary option because there's just so many threats on this Browns offense. They're gonna have to spread it around a ton, and I do believe he'll be the go-to in the red zone. But there's a ton of options, especially Josh Gordon there. You have Duke Johnson on the backfield. There's just a ton of weapons, and then O.J. Howard. He did really good last year before he got hurt. But there's 2 starting tight ends there, which is the problem.
You got Cameron right there too.
Yeah. So I mean, this is again another high risk, high reward, and I do believe that one of these 2 guys could really break out, and maybe even you'll play the matchup and say, this team's really bad against tight ends, so I'll play them. So if you really micromanage well, I think this could pay off for you.
Okay. Well, we forgot one thing, guys. We actually did rank all these teams. How we felt before. So I want to give you partiality. Overall, out of the 12 teams, I personally ranked him number 9. There were some weaknesses. Le'Veon definitely hurt the ranking right now because he's not playing. So that really did affect it for me. But other than that, he's got a pretty solid team. But if Le'Veon comes back, that ranking goes way up for me.
All right, Partiality. I believe in you a little bit more than him. I had you ranked as my 6th team, so you're right in the middle. So with good team management and a little bit of luck on your side, I think you could crush it this year.
Now, for me, Cody, I have you at 6 because I don't see too much depth on the team. You have a really good starting core. Again, I'm not sold on Larry Fitz yet because he's a little older. Kyle's right, and Njoku is young. He's got a lot of threats. Not very proven. Your running backs are really good. Kirk Cousins is a good quarterback, but I think overall you're about middle of the pack 6, but with good management, you'll probably be 1-2 by the end of the season.
That's just where I have him. Well, close. I have him as my 3rd best team. Steve's completely right. That bench is atrocious. You need to do some clean sweeps there. I saw some guys in there that I'd drop and pick up other guys from the waivers just right now. I don't see much upside for some of those guys. So you need to work on your bench, but your starters are legit. They'll get you the points, but when buys come into effect, you're gonna be hurting for certain. So the best thing you can do right now is scour that waiver wire and be aggressive with your free agent auction budget, and grab some guys to really complete your team. If you can get that bench up, you could be number 1 easy. You have the points coming from the starters, but that bench.
All right. Now we'll move on to the 3rd pick in the draft. This guy's team. He named it, I like this one, Carry On My Wayward Son, because he was smart and drafted Kerryon Johnson as one of his running backs. Now, he has one of the better quarterbacks in the league this year. Young guy, mobile, Russell Wilson.
My boy.
Always one of the better quarterbacks in the league these last few years. Always good in fantasy and always has some offensive threats. This year, although, it looks like he's probably going to have to do a lot more himself.
You think he did a lot? You think he has to do a lot this year? Last year, do you know that I think it was 90% of all touchdowns started from him?
Well,
that includes his rushes. That includes his throws. That he didn't get much work from the running backs at all. And I think with Chris Carson back and healthy, and maybe Rashad Penny, I'm not really holding up
30 pounds over.
Yeah. He'll get a little more help, which will really help game script, and they won't focus on him as much. Again, his offensive line's terrible, but he makes it work.
So, running backs, very, very solid, very deep this year on running backs. Number 3 pick, David Johnson, great pick. Next, Jordan Howard. Chicago's not a great team, but Jordan Howard's a great running back. Always a good fantasy producer, always a touchdown threat, makes some big runs, and you've really got only Tariq Cohen behind him, and that's not really a threat to any of the numbers this year, so look for him to be a huge threat this year.
I believe in the Bears this year. They have Matt Nagy as their new coach. He was the offensive coordinator for Atlanta, and or maybe it was the Chiefs. I'm going to give false information apparently. But he's a fantastic coach, and he will know what to do with these players a lot more. And if that creates more winning, that creates more game script where there's more running. He's talked about Jordan Howard, how much he loves him, and his weakness is really his hands. So what he's had Jordan Howard do every single day, he goes, at the end of practice, he has to catch 100 balls before he can leave. And that's going to improve. Practice makes perfect. And so he's going to become, I believe, a threat in the catching game. Not as much as Tariq Cohen, but being able to surprise people with hands after years of not being able to catch anything is really going to change things, I think.
So his two other running backs that he has on his roster, Kerryon Johnson, started for Denver, solid player.
Denver?
I mean, not Denver, Detroit. It's late, guys.
Starts for Denver, tell me.
Oh, draft stock goes up. And Marshawn Lynch somehow is still putting up numbers, even though he doesn't have a number one running back consistent workload. But he's still putting up really good numbers these last few years.
If you saw him in the preseason, he is beast mode. He took off. He still has it.
He's always beast mode, guys. But that's the one other thing, Kyle. I think you might want to have one more running back on your roster, especially if Marshawn's numbers start going down partway through the season. That you might want to look to get another one, especially with buys. You never know.
I'll look into it.
He is not going to look, guys. Now, one position absolutely solid, tight end, Travis Kelce. I don't think we have to say anything about it. Everyone knows he's good. Everyone knows he's got a great offense, and they're going to throw to him in the red zone all the time.
Are you worried about Patrick Mahomes? Because when I took this guy, I was worried. I wasn't super happy with the pick, but I believed it. It was the best pick. And I think he'll be good. I just hope that Mahomes trusts him just as much as Alex Smith did.
I mean, Mahomes, although he's a young quarterback, this preseason he's looked very good. He's got a very strong arm. He's been healthy, and he looks like he's been ready to take over the reins from Alex Smith for a while now. It looks like he's had a lot of practice with this first team, and you didn't really see it much because the first team wasn't on the field much this preseason. But it looks like deep, he's got Tyreek Hill, but red zone, I think it's going to go to Kelce almost all the time.
I'm down for that.
Wide receivers for you, Kyle?
Weak.
Well, I'm not going to say weak. I'm going to say a lot. I'm going to say a lot of potential, but not very often. Chris Hogan for the Patriots. Bill Belichick loves Tom Brady, so whatever Tom Brady wants goes. So if he wants to throw to Chris Hogan 15 games, he's going to throw to Chris Hogan.
Edelman out is skyrockets. But I also have Edelman,
who's going to be coming back eventually. But for the first few games, it's going to be Hogan. Then Michael Crabtree. He's now the big threat on Baltimore, and honestly, not a bad guy to have on your roster. But as your number two, that's a little questionable.
It's scary. It's not what I would like.
But one of my favorite picks this year in almost any league is Keelan Cole. He is the number one wide receiver for Jacksonville this year. He's a rookie, and he's going to put up some big numbers, especially
Keelan Cole's not a rookie.
Second year. Sorry, guys. He's going to put up big numbers. Blake Bortles is going to look for someone now that Allen Hurts and Allen Robinson are gone, and Keelan Cole is going to be his guy this year.
I'd like to see that too. Suppose from that, I can tell you that I have Edelman, which is a mistake in my part because I didn't look at my roster and see I had Chris Hogan. So I've been trying to send out trade offers to get rid of him. I believe he's going to be great when he comes back, but I don't need the top two targets besides Gronk on that team because certain weeks he'll be great, certain weeks he'll be terrible. So I'm looking for trades, people. Kerryon, I already discussed him. He's going to be great. Allen Hurns, he's supposedly the wide receiver one for Dallas, so he could see a ton of work. Anthony Miller, I think he's going to be fantastic on the Bears. Like I said, Matt Nagy knows what he's doing, and everybody says that he's looking like he's going to be, the number two through and through. I'm willing to deal with that. Jameis Winston, I've been picking this guy in every single league as one of the last two picks. He's going to come back after 4 weeks, and he's just going to fill a bye for me. And he's
a solid player.
I predicted him as a top 12 quarterback before the suspension, so why not after?
All right, well, Kyle's team, I have at number 3 in our league this year, rank-wise. And I think that's pretty good because, again, the mistake with Julian Edelman, his wide receivers are a little weak. But I see a lot of potential and a lot of potential trades with this team that, with good managing, he's gonna stay 3, maybe move up to 2 or 1. But he's up there right now because he's been proven a good manager before.
I have myself at 4. I feel like it's stroking me in the ego a little bit, but I agree. It's a solid base team minus the receivers, but even when those receivers goes off, it could make up for the other 2. So I think it's decent.
All right, next we're going to talk about Ryan Costello's team, Discount Double Check. This guy is a huge Packers fan, and so it's a little surprised that he didn't pick Aaron Rodgers for the draft, but you might want to change the name, Brian, until you get Aaron Rodgers. His quarterback is, though, Alex Smith. Very solid guy, I think, but he had a great year in Kansas City last year, but it's going to be interesting to see him in Washington.
I just don't believe in Alex Smith this year. He has some weapons, but they're not amazing weapons, and I don't think Alex Smith in general is an amazing quarterback. I think he's serviceable, and I could see top 15 for him, but I really don't know about top 12.
It's going to be interesting. He's got to put in some work. Now, Brian's running backs, Zeke Elliott and Christian McCaffrey. Both solid guys, both very good.
Brian actually got Christian McCaffrey to pick before me, and I was very upset because I was just like, I'm going to get Christian McCaffrey on the end of the second round, but he got it. He has Zeke, and it's obviously a half PPR, so he's not going to get the reception bonus, but that's going to be okay. One thing I do want to add is while Alex Smith is a starting quarterback, he has Carson Wentz on his bench.
That is big.
So I think that this is more of a play for him to just hold out until Carson Wentz is back. But do you think Carson Wentz can return to what he was? Because I don't think I do.
I think his knee, having torn his ACL last season, is going to be the big question, obviously. But I think it's more getting acclimated back into an offense where I don't think his offense has lost a step. I think they're running the same exact stuff as last year. I think they're going to expect him to run the same way. And honestly, that's what got him hurt, trying to run into plays, trying to score more.
Yep.
And he might have to tone it down, and that might hurt his numbers this year.
I don't think what he did last year is sustainable. If you look at the numbers, it was like 1 in 9 plays came up with a touchdown, which is insane numbers, and I don't think you can repeat that, especially after being hurt. So I think there's some regression due. He'll be okay. Probably will be inside the top 10 in the end. But I don't know if he's worth the draft price he was going at. So we'll see, Brian. We'll see.
All right. On his bench, running backs, he's got Mark Ingram, Ronald Jones, and Bilal Powell. Ingram is going to be suspended for the first few games. No problem. Because when he comes back, he's on his contract year, so he's probably going to get run to the ground, and they're probably going to use him a lot.
I agree with this. I mean, there is always, because they just signed Gillislee. And so if they find Gillislee to be doing the same thing as Mark Ingram, they might just say we don't need him anymore, which is always scary. But I do believe Mark Ingram has a little bit more talent than Gillislee. So
he was a Pro Bowl running back last year.
He was.
With playing behind Alvin Kamara, so I think that says something for the guy.
I think it says a lot for the offensive line.
That's also true. Now, the other 2 running backs he has on his bench, Bilal Powell and Ronald Jones. I don't know about Bilal Powell on the Jets. Anything Jets I'm concerned with.
So there's a big discussion because whenever for the preseason they had reps come out with the first team, Bilal Powell was always there. So people are thinking it's him, but at the same time, even when they had no other choice at running back besides Powell, they refused to give him a ton of work. So he's not going to be given a ton of work even if he is the number 1 there. So I agree. I'm staying away from Jets running backs this year. They're just not good. And then Ronald Jones the second. That's such a question mark, I'd say.
You have no clue what's going to happen with Tampa Bay's running backs. I mean, you might see him get a lot of work with Jameis Winston not playing the first few games, or you might see them just try and throw. I just don't know what's going to happen down there, and having him on your bench, it could turn out to be huge. It could turn out to be absolutely worthless, but I guess we'll see.
People have seen him in the preseason, and he's been terrible. I think he averaged negative yardage in the preseason, and so he's not that good. He's a small guy trying to go through the tackles, and it's just not working. So I don't believe in Peyton Barber. Sorry, Peyton Barber. Wow. Ronald Jones. I don't believe in Peyton Barber either, but I don't believe in Ronald Jones.
Talking about Ronald Jones.
And we'll see how it pays off. I feel like this could be a drop candidate within week 3.
Now on to his wide receivers. Great. Love the wide receivers on this team, and it's deep. Tyreek Hill,
Great.
Demaryius Thomas,
Great.
Allen Robinson.
Could be great.
Could be great. You've got on his bench Danny Amendola.
Could be taking over the Jarvis role, so
You
risk
never know.
reward, all right.
John Brown.
I think he's fantastic, more than just a speedster. He also can run really good routes. And good luck trying to keep up with him.
He's got a good core of receivers with some depth, and I think that's going to really pay off for him this year because I don't think he's going to need to pick up any wide receivers ever. He's got himself covered with his buys. He's got himself covered with his depth. I don't think he's going to have a problem with that this year, and that's going to leave him a lot of space to work with those extra running backs.
I mean, he also has the Jacksonville defense, which is obviously anything that can give you an advantage, and having a defense like that can give you a ton of points each week. It's really helpful, but I have him ranked as my number 1 team. I think he could do it as long as he keeps up the management of the team. I think he could win this out.
You know, this might be one of the only ones that we agree with, but I also have him as number 1. Again,
right.
He's got a solid team, good depth, and with good management, he's going to stay at number 1 for me. He's not going to move much this year.
All right.
Next, Trevor Coulter's team, wannabe winners. Because, I don't think he's ever won a fantasy league.
I think this is the farthest he's gotten within skill. If you saw his teams last year, they were pretty atrocious. But if you look at his teams this year, they've gotten better. A large part due to the fact that he found expert consensus ratings, and he's learned to build his own ratings off of that. But he's put in the work this year to get better, and it's showing. Every single draft he does, it's been showing.
Definitely. So, let's start. We're going to skip the quarterback right now.
Okay.
We're going to go straight to the running backs, because this is a little bit of a question for me on this team.
It's a scary situation.
He's got starting Lamar Miller and Carlos Hyde, which Lamar Miller's been solid. He's not put up great numbers, but he's put up average numbers. Carlos Hyde in Cleveland, though. That's interesting.
I don't like Carlos Hyde. He didn't have the first and second down work, yes. But he's not going to have that third down work that's to Duke Johnson. They're going to try to throw in Chubb occasionally because he is the rookie. He'll get the majority of the work, but it won't be a large line share. I also don't think the Browns are good enough to constantly run up points on opponents, so they're not going to have a game script where they have to run. So not that great. Lamar Miller is a terrible player, but he's the guy in Houston in an offense that could click again like last year, and they could just run up points, so they have to go to him. This offensive line for Houston is really bad. I think it was ranked like 32nd defense, offensive line. So that really hurts him. But opportunity trumps skill a lot of times.
Definitely. But now his running back's on his bench. He's got Sony Michel, who's injured for the Patriots.
Could be interesting. He's going to start week 1. He's not going to be thrown into the lineup, but he's
going to be playing. He's healthy. He's healthy. He's going to be playing. But it's going to be interesting to see what role they give him, especially on a Patriots team that loves to switch out running backs a lot during the year.
Yeah.
This year's probably going to be a lot of Rex Burkhead because they really like him. They like the way he plays. But look for Sony Michel to come in every now and then, really put up some big numbers, and they might start riding him if he gets hot.
Yeah, the Patriots ride the hot hand like crazy, so as long as he doesn't fumble the ball and he starts really pushing, he could see a couple weeks' worth of work. And then what I'd say is the second that he fumbles the ball, just bench him.
Absolutely. Now, the other running back you have on your bench, Trevor, Ty Montgomery.
No
Bad pick. He is
really
not
bad.
the starter from Green Bay, and he's put on a lot of weight these last 2 seasons. He's not the guy that you want to have on your bench as your 4th running back as a backup.
So Jamal
Williams.
Yeah, he's going to get the first crack at this because Aaron Jones suspended for 2 games. I don't see Ty Montgomery being given a chance. The only way he even sees a good chance is if Jamal Williams gets hurt week 1 or middle of week 2 and they put him in. But they're going to go to Aaron Jones immediately afterwards if that happens.
The one other thing, I don't see it happening, but remember, Ty Montgomery used to be a wide receiver. So, with a depleted 3 spot for the Packers, I don't see it happening. But don't be surprised, middle of the season, something happens. Ty Montgomery's back on the line.
Depleted. I mean, they have Randall Cobb there.
And Devontae Adams. After that, their number 3 spot's
he's not that
set
bad.
yet.
I forget his name, but he's actually pretty decent. Aaron Rodgers really likes him. He had to come in for a little bit last year. And he really made some noise and did some good stuff. Not to mention that Green Bay also drafted 3 running backs. So they're not so depleted that they'll have to bring in Ty Montgomery.
You never know.
I know.
The expert knows. Now, but Trevor's wide receiver core is good.
That's where he excels.
Really good. Antonio Brown, Michael Thomas, and T.Y. are his 3 starters. That right there, I would have almost any of them as my number 1 wide receiver.
His flex is Doug Baldwin.
Sadly, no one got Doug Baldwin before him. He has 4 number 1 wide receivers in his starting lineup. Good job, Trevor. Way to take advantage. Well, I would suggest try and trade away one of those guys for a good running back, because losing one, you're still at your 3.
I was making him some offers earlier. I want one. And he needs a running back that I have extra of. So
not only
keep me in mind.
Not only that, he's got Randall Cobb on his bench. That's good, solid option.
Especially as a flex. I agree.
So now, big question for you this year. Do you trust Andrew Luck? I don't know. He's been looking good preseason, but he's had some injury problems these last few years, and I don't know if he's going to stay on the field.
I don't either, and I'd feel a little bit more confident in this team if he had a better backup quarterback, but he's Blake Bortles, which personally I actually really like as in a 2-quarterback league. But when there were probably a lot better options, I don't love the taking of Bortles. I think that if you had committed to a better backup a little bit earlier, I would feel a lot more confident with this bench. The bench is the weak part, I'd say, because he has Cassius Clay on this bench.
Charles Clay,
my bad. But he's on the Buffalo offense. The only person to have there is McCoy.
And he hasn't topped a 4-touchdown, 600-yard season in the last few years. So
that's an immediate drop in my team.
He has the potential. He's definitely talented, but the numbers have not been there. So be careful. You might want to get rid of him early on if he's not producing. But the starter is Delaney Walker for the Titans. Always a threat, always an option for Marcus Mariota down there.
Yeah, he actually has the most targets per year usually. So it's pretty decent. There is a PPR that half a point for every reception, so that does matter. What I want to bring up is he has Philly's defense, which is, I think, overrated for fantasy. Fantastic in real life, but they don't do a lot for forcing turnovers. They just stop the downs. They reduce yardage. And for some reason on this bench he has Seattle's defense. Not only do you not need a second defense, but you don't want Seattle's. It's not good like it used to be.
No, the 12th man is not that strong anymore. He's kind of looking like this kid now.
Ugh.
But despite all this, I have him ranked number 2 in the league right now.
I actually have him ranked number 2 too. I can talk badly about it all the time, but those 4 top receivers really push him upwards. I think again he's trying to trade for some value, but
I think it has a lot of potential.
Yeah.
I think management here is definitely going to be important.
Yeah, the trade
Mismanagement is going to drop him down big time this year.
I agree.
So even if it's okay, not going to drop him down too much, but good management is going to keep you up there at number 2. Maybe you can jump Ryan at number 1.
Yeah,
if you're doing a good job.
If I saw a running back there, I mean, it'd probably be number 1.
All right, next we got Dak Street's back, Jacob Edgar. He had the number 6 pick, and he had a decent team. I don't know how his draft went. He kind of surprised me sometimes when it went on.
I don't love this team. I love Jake.
I don't know him, so I can't say it, but I don't love this team either. Questionable draft picks sometimes when I was looking at it, but his running backs, J.J. and Tevin Coleman to start. That's just
J.J. this year, or any year really. He wasn't even good in Miami when he had more options. He has a good offensive line with the Eagles, but he's not going to get a ton of work, and it's just not that great. There's a committee there.
And Tevin Coleman's playing behind Devontae Freeman in Atlanta. Yeah. Granted, you probably see a little more in passing downs in a PPR. It's not bad, but he's still not going to get it. It's not full PPR, but it's still not a great option to have as your starter.
Yeah, if I were you, Jake, I'd scour the waiver wire every single week, try to get that guy that could be the next pickup, and also maybe make some trades. You desperately need a running back that's way better than these.
And on your bench, LeGarrette Blount and Chris Ivory, both guys that back in the day, great running backs. Now they don't see much action on the field, if any at all.
I was expecting Blount to get cut from the Lions, to be honest. He's going to get the first crack, technically, at running, but it's at a committee, and then you have Carry on there, and they're going to realize the talent is going to win out, and they're going to choose him. So Blount, terrible. And then Chris Ivory might be good next year if something happens legally, but nothing's going to happen with Sean McCoy this year. Legal battles always take over a year to get to.
And given the situation up there, I don't think it's going to really affect his play. It doesn't look like, if anything was going to happen, the league probably would have given us an initial suspension right now for him to fight. But since that hasn't happened, I don't see anything happening with any suspensions even in the next year.
I agree.
His wide receivers, though, not bad. DeAndre Hopkins, very, very good. Stephon Diggs, this guy loves him.
Oh, yeah.
I like him, too. Definitely one of the better receivers in the league. Him and Thielen being on the same team is a little unfortunate, having 2 great wide receivers there taking each other's touches. But I think he's probably right. Stephon's probably going to get a little more numbers. His number 3, Sterling Shepard, on the Giants behind Odell. I don't know. You might see a little more targeting if Odell's double covered, but I don't know.
So I was listening up on this a little bit, and one thing about the new offensive coordinator, I forget his name, but he loves throwing to the slot. He used to be the offensive coordinator for Minnesota, and that's how Thielen exploded, because Thielen was in the slot a lot of times, and he would get a ton of opportunities. So Sterling Shepard may get a ton of opportunity, but then again, you have so many other options there. You have Evan Ingram, you have Odell, you have Saquon Barkley. All of those are going to require the ball a lot. They have skill. It could be good if he plays well. I think he'll be giving up opportunity, but not the greatest one.
I think he's going to have to earn his touches.
And it's from Eli, so.
But his wide receivers on the bench aren't bad. A little weak, but he's got a couple of them. Rashard Matthews for Tennessee. He's not a bad guy, solid
he's
guy.
Second on the depth chart, 3rd in touches. And maybe 4th because they'll have Deion Lewis.
Yeah, you never know this year. Deshaun Jackson in Tampa Bay. I mean, make or break guy. He's a touchdown-dependent wide receiver. Even in the PPR league, he's definitely touchdown-dependent. You'll see him 3-4 catches a game at most for big yards and maybe a touchdown, but that's all about you can expect from him, if that.
I don't know if he's even in their top 3, to be honest with you. I think Chris Godwin came in and won that spot from him, so he may not even see that.
So definitely watch Deshaun Jackson this year. If he's not getting the numbers by week 2, I would definitely suggest trying to find someone else. And Devontae Parker,
He's injured.
But he's a solid guy for Miami when he comes back. He's definitely one of their better options in a passing offense that really relies heavily on getting the ball downfield. But until he's back and healthy, I don't know. You might want to drop him. I don't know if anyone else is going to pick him up and take the risk. But
Devontae Parker is the #1, but really Kenny Stills has been playing better than Devontae Parker, and I'm just waiting for Adam Gase to finally realize it and put him in that slot.
So your quarterback, Jacob, is Drew Brees. Very good guy, very good player. A little bit older in his years, but still very good numbers.
He didn't do great last year, but he's not going to have Mark Ingram for 4 weeks. Maybe he'll settle into a rhythm where passing is more important. I mean, they ran the ball like crazy last year, but he's still really, really good, and you have Michael Thomas there. He could. A lot of people are predicting him to just go off and be another top 5 guy like he was previous years. So it could be a really good pick. We'll have to see that one.
And then your tight ends, Jimmy Graham and Kyle Rudolph. I'm not opposed to having 2 tight ends here because I think Kyle Rudolph's probably the better option, honestly, in a Minnesota offense that he's probably going to get the ball more. Jimmy Graham is now in Green Bay. He's got one of the best quarterbacks in the league, Aaron Rodgers, throwing to him, but they've got a lot of offensive weapons in the passing game. I don't think Jimmy Graham's your top target even in the red zone.
I mean, you just look at the history. They do not throw to tight ends. He will. I think Jimmy Graham will come away with a ton of touchdowns. But if you look at history, to be really relevant as a really top tight end, you need both targets and touchdowns. And I don't think the targets will be there. I think he'll just get red zone looks, and that's it. And that's nice, but I don't think we'll be doing much besides that.
I don't think so either. So, Jacob, given all that, I've got you ranked at 11th in the league, sadly.
Oh, we did agree for another one. I have him as 11 also.
3 times we agreed, and I said only once. Well, I think that says something, Jacob. I think you need to definitely work hard, make some trades, find some free agents, and get yourself up there. Okay. Next in the draft was Drew Patrick with his name Drew 2.
Drew the second, I like.
Drew the second. I like Drew 2. It kind of rhymes. I'm hoping that's what you were going for.
R2 Drew 2?
He's getting a new name. All right. So, Drew 2. Kyle, you want to hit this one up?
Let's start off with the running back. So he has Alvin Kamara and Joe Mixon. Alvin Kamara last year was awesome. A lot of people picked him up off the waiver wire, and he actually just won them the league. But he was super efficient. He wasn't given the touches that most people that ended up as high ranked as him did, but he just, whenever he touched that ball, he would just go, 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 go. I can't imagine that'll continue, because to sustain that kind of numbers is just very hard, and even guys that I think everybody would agree are better than him skill-wise just can't continue doing that year after year. I do think the Saints will throw more this year, and while he is the passing down, I think he's going to see about the same amount of points he got last year, but it's just going to be spread out over more games and not be as efficient. He'll be all right, and I think he'll really bring you some points, but it won't be amazing.
So Joe Mixon is other starting running back. Cincinnati, solid. Passing downs, running touches, red zone, solid guy. I don't think there's anything we really need to say about him.
Right.
His other running backs, Duke Johnson on Cleveland. He's got Carlos Hyde there now, but Duke Johnson is young. He has shown potential. Early in the season, you might see a few less touches, but later on, I think he's going to have a good year.
There are certain teams that are really bad at handling passing downs out of the backfield. So if you stream him versus those teams, I think you'll have the most success with him. Besides that, I don't know if you can call when he'll be startable, because I think he'll be startable besides those times in certain situations where he happens to get goal line pass to him, and you can't really guess that. So I don't know if he's worth playing besides the streaming times.
And so the last running back, Rashad Penny, right now, drop him. Overweight, injured, drop him. Seattle's not going to run him.
There's better guys on that waiver wire.
Absolutely. Now, quarterbacks for you. Deshaun Watson starting, coming back off an injury, but he is a great player to have this year. He's looking to come back, bounce back strong, and he's got some good weapons down there in DeAndre Hopkins.
The biggest problem for Deshaun Watson is his offensive line, like I talked about with Lamar Miller. That's the reason he got hurt last year. They just can't protect him for anything. So he has the running capability, so that'll always keep him relevant. And he has DeAndre Hopkins, which will always, help him. But he's gonna be attacked constantly and on the run. So there may be some interceptions thrown because he's gonna be pressured so much.
On that note, with that bad offensive line, look for opposing teams to stack the box more, which means he's going to get some quick passes off. So if you ever want a deep sleeper in a league or want to pick someone up off the waiver wire, look for whoever is playing in the slot for them because they're definitely going to need it, especially if they don't have DeAndre Hopkins staying short. They have him going long and have someone else stay that under option for Deshaun Watson. He's definitely going to be a value pick this year late.
I think Will Fuller will be that deeper guy, but it's a good thought, and I think we should take it to heart.
So he's also on his bench. He's got Patrick Mahomes.
He's some people's ride or die. He could be amazing. He could explode, but he could also implode.
Definitely. He's young. He hasn't had too much time with the first team offense and game experience, but he's definitely got a strong arm. He's healthy. He's played with the Chiefs in the preseason. He looks good.
He's got Tyreek Hill and Sammy Watkins. Can't complain about that.
No. So if something happens, Deshaun does go down this year, I do approve that having Patrick Mahomes as your backup is a very good option this year.
Yeah, he could honestly come out on top. That's where Deshaun Watson was last year. Nobody drafted him. And he just exploded before he got hurt.
So now, on your wide receivers, not bad. A little questionable, though. Keenan Allen, your number one. Good
Love
pick.
Keenan.
Great player. Marvin Jones Jr. for Detroit. Honestly, he's an okay player.
He's decent.
He puts up some numbers, but you got to think with Golden Tate there, going to be spread around a little bit. Devin Funches for Carolina. I don't know how I feel about him this year.
I picked up Devin Funchess in the league last year, and I wrote him as my flex every single year after that. Every single week. And he was good, but he wasn't amazing, and he had no other competition besides Christian McCaffrey in the backfield. Now you're getting Greg Olsen back, and you're getting DJ Moore, who's honestly a better player than Funchess really is. It could be split, not to mention the fact that in the red zone, Cam just likes to run it himself.
Very true.
So he could be all right, but I don't know. He's mediocre.
And on your bench, you've got Mike Williams, Cameron Meredith, and Paul Richardson Jr. I like Cam Meredith for New Orleans. He's a good young player. Look for him to have a good year and definitely break through once the season gets started. But Paul Richardson Jr. for Washington now, I don't agree with it. I don't think he's going to get a lot of time. I don't think he's going to get a lot of looks.
So I agree. Paul Richardson Jr. probably not worth even keeping right now. He's one of those bench cloggers who you just hope he'll explode. And unless he does, he's just going to be wasting a spot on your bench. I disagree with Cameron Meredith. He's not even making the starting three right now. If he does, he could be very relevant. But as of now, he's not even going to be a starter. But I love Mike Williams because they lost Hunter Henry. They need another red zone threat. Obviously, they just signed Antonio Gates, but Mike Williams was drafted in the first round last year, and nobody forgot about him when he got drafted and then he got hurt. He's a big guy. He's an athletic freak. He's going to be catching things in the red zone. They're going to look at him like he's almost a tight end that can run really fast. So I like that one, but besides the other two, do not like.
So, Drew, I gave you the fourth rank in the league this year because that starting lineup is very solid, and I think with some good management, your bench can get even more solid than it is.
I gave you the 7th spot. I think your starters are decent. I love Keenan Allen, and I really like Mixon this year, but I just feel like the other ones are just settling picks. Duke Johnson on your starting roster makes me, nervous for you because if he has to start for you, it's not great. Your bench it really needs some work. I think there's some guys in the waivers that you could pick up and it'll immediately impact your team positively. With work, you could easily do well. That's why you're just middle of the pack, but 7th. I think you do it.
All right, now my team, Pokemon Grief.
Lovely.
I like it.
I think we had the best 2 names this year. I don't know.
You know what, guys? By the end of the year, if we get everyone to change their name to something, we'll put up another poll. Best name. And we'll use that for next year's draft selection.
I like it.
All right, so my team, Pokemon Grief, I was the 8th pick. And I think I have a decently solid team. Not the best. Definitely not the best. But I see a lot of potential with my team. My running backs, Saquon Barkley, rookie for the Giants, but our friend Kyle Brown, who went to Penn State, talks him up all the time. Watching him play, watching the combine, watching his preseason, love him.
He's a freak. He is next generational talent.
He's going to be the running back of the future. He can run, he can catch, his hands. That's one understated thing about him. I saw a video of rookies getting their first Madden rating, and everyone who was looking at it said, how are you going to rank Saquon's hands and catching ability so low? And I think that says something for every NFL player to say his hands are there. So look for him to get some looks out of the backfield, not just pounding the ball down the middle and running it, but catching out of the backfield too.
I completely agree. He's going to be amazing. Besides that, your other running back is Rex Burkhead. We discussed this earlier. I mean, it's New England, so you get scared always, and if he doesn't have a hot hand, he's not going to have a touch in the ball. But I think they're going to have to rely on him because, they're really hurting in a lot of areas. And there's some times where he's been even lining up in the slot because they just need him there. So he'll be really good. I remember multiple games last year where he had 2 touchdowns in a single game. They look for him in the red zone. They really do. Especially if Gronk gets hurt, he's going to be really targeted.
So my other running backs are Chris Carson for Seattle, who's going to be the starter. He's going to get looks.
He's been looking really good. He looked really good last year, and people in training camp and preseason say he's looked really, really good. Rashad Penny doesn't even compete with him right now, so I think he's really good.
Hopefully that works out. And the last guy, I drafted Spencer Ware as the backup in Kansas City, but I dropped him and picked up Matt Breida from San Francisco. Alfred Morris is a starting guy right now after the Jerick McKinnon injury. And
I picked him up.
He picked him up in a league, not this one. We'll talk about that
not
later.
This one. You're
not
right.
This one. We'll talk about that later when we get to it. But I picked up Matt Breida. He is the backup. He was going to be the second man to Jerick McKinnon. So what I'm hopefully looking for, he's not in my starting roster right now, but what I'm looking for is hopefully down the road, later this season, he's going to be included a lot more in the offense. He's going to be in there for the passing downs especially, get some goal line red zone looks, and hopefully turn into a big threat from my San Francisco 49ers.
So personally, I believe in Alfred Morris over Breida. Me and Steve actually have a bet. Whoever at the end of the season gets the most fantasy points has to do something. So we're taking suggestions. We haven't figured out a punishment for the loser, but throw us some suggestions because when Steve loses, I'd love to make him do something stupid.
All right, my wide receivers, I think they're solid. Devontae Adams, Amari Cooper, and Dante Moncrief are my starting 3 right now. Devontae, Green Bay's #1 option. Aaron Rodgers loves throwing to him. Lots of red zone looks, lots of yards. Easy choice. Amari Cooper, same thing in Oakland. #1 guy, lots of red zone, lots of yards. Derek Carr loves throwing to him. I don't think there's any problems with those 2 guys really.
Now, I question, so you have Marquise Goodwin on your bench right now. Is that supposed to be your 3rd starter?
So I have Marquise Goodwin and Dante Moncrief as my 3 right now. Marquise Goodwin's going up against Minnesota this week, and Moncrief's going up against the Giants. That's just a matchup thing for me this week. Marquise Goodwin is my #3. He's definitely the number 3
That-
guy on my roster.
That's solid.
For San Francisco, Jimmy Garoppolo's been throwing him a lot. He's been looking good in the preseason. But I feel like Moncrief right now is the better matchup against the Giants defense that's not great. They're good, but they're not great.
So your tight end is Greg Olsen, Mr. Consistent basically. He got hurt last year, came back, didn't do amazing. You suspect he'll just jump right back in where he was before?
I think so. I mean, they've got Christian McCaffrey there, and they don't really have a wide receiver threat. We could talk about Devin Funchess, DJ Moore. Well, I think passing in the red zone, if Cam's not going to run it in, it's going to go to Greg Olsen.
I feel it.
But it doesn't matter to me because I have Cam Newton as my quarterback.
Aha! There you go. Just smiles all around.
So, I picked Cam later in the draft. After I got Olsen, this was a little bit strategic for me, seeing if Olsen's not going to get the red zone looks, it's going to be McCaffrey catching out of the backfield, which I don't think any of us can argue with. But if Cam's going to run it himself, it's either going to be that or I'm going to get a nice passing touchdown to Olsen and get a nice 10 points there. So,
all right.
I think Cam's a great pick there.
For your backup receivers, Kenny Stills, I do believe he's the number 1 there, so I love that. Tyler Lockett, he just got a big pay extension, so obviously they value him, and with money usually comes target, so I like that. Phillip Rivers, Mr. Consistent when it comes to quarterbacks, I love that.
He has been the most consistent quarterback last 4 years in terms of fantasy production. And honestly, when you're talking about just playing for a bye week, having someone like that where you know you can get your 18 to 20 points, it's just nice. It's nice being able to say, okay, I've got my guy, all set, don't need to worry about it anymore.
I agree. Jared Cook, I don't know how I feel about this. I think there are probably better options on the waiver wire you could probably find.
I'm probably going to go back and look for him. I'll admit that was kind of a panic pick at that point. I wanted a backup tight end, and he was the next one I saw that's produced in the past, so I'm thinking maybe take a chance on him, but you're right. I'm probably going to go on the waiver wire and pick someone else up.
All right. Well, as we're discussing your team, I reevaluated my rankings because I actually really like this team, so I moved you from 8th to 5th. So, I mean, your bench is pretty decent. You could use a little bit more running back depth. I don't think Matt Breida is going to be it for you. But if you pick up a running back that can start and, a better tight end, I think you have a lot of potential. There's a lot of guys that could just explode this year.
Thank you. I rank myself 7th because, like Kyle said, running back depth is definitely an issue for me. I know that. Tight end, Olsen's there, but I would like someone else as my backup. And wide receivers, although they're solid, I would like to trade away maybe Goodwin and Moncrief and get someone better overall. Sacrifice some depth for a little more talent. But I rank myself 7th because, honestly, I know I'm not one of the best teams after the draft, but I think I'm still pretty solid.
I listened to someone and they say your league is not won at the draft. It's 33% draft, 33% waiver wire, and 33% luck. So.
Well, I'm pretty lucky this year.
Oh, okay. All right. Who's next?
Next, we've got Matt Plant, one of my former roommates, great guy, with the 9th pick. With his, at the time of the draft, it was Matt's Majestic team. Thank you for changing it. He is now cooking with class.
Ooh.
Because one of his starting running backs is Dalvin Cook.
That is fantastic. +1 for you, sir.
So his other starting running back is Derrick Henry, though.
-1 for you.
Dalvin Cook, definitely a great option. Number 1 guy in Minnesota. They've been behind this guy since last year. Even with Latavius Murray as a backup, he doesn't see much time. It's either Dalvin Cook's on the field or they're not running with a running back.
I don't know if I agree. Just the goal line work, I do believe Latavius Murray will steal some of that. People say, well, it wasn't stolen from him last year, but Latavius Murray was injured at the beginning of the year, so he didn't have an opportunity to steal it. So I don't think we'll really know that dynamic, but I have a feeling Latavius Murray could be more of a threat than you think. But he will receive passing down work, which is always nice.
Yes. You also have to remember, Jerick McKinnon was in Minnesota last year too, so he got a decent amount of goal line work too. So I think it's going to be the dynamic of Latavius just stepping into that role McKinnon had, which bodes well with Dalvin Cook, especially early in the season when they're going to rely on him a little more heavily. Derrick Henry, though, for Tennessee, I don't know.
I'm staying away from the running backs from Tennessee, man. They're going to split it so much, and they're not one of those teams that's going to run an extreme amount, so I'm out.
I'm out too on him. You just never know with him. On your bench for running backs, Peyton Barber in Tampa Bay, James White in New England, Adrian Peterson in Washington. I don't know.
You have, so James White could be amazing. He's a PPR machine sometimes. He's a Super Bowl champion. But I don't know how good he is in the season. But, that New England running back situation is just a giant throw in the air, so it could really pay off for you. Peyton Barber, he's the starter, I guess. He's not good.
In an offense that's struggling this year, to say the least.
He's a starter, so I respect the pick. Adrian Peterson, again, he's named the starter week 1. He's been there for a while. He's not that great anymore.
But it's AP. You never know. He's still got some potential upside, so having him on your bench, not opposed to.
The Washington offensive line isn't that bad either, so he could find some weeks, especially as a fill-in during bye weeks. He could really find some decent points for you, so I respect it.
Now, definitely who I consider the best quarterback in the league this year.
I think everybody does.
Aaron Rodgers.
A-Rod.
A+. Aaron Rodgers, A+ every single time. And on your bench, Case Keenum for Denver. I don't know. He's a solid quarterback. He's never been awful, but he's in an offense that's been struggling the last few years, so I don't know how much he's going to produce. But if you're only having him for 1 week, I'm fine with it.
I'm fine with it too. Especially what I do for you is if you see that Case Keenum has a really good matchup for A-Rod's bye, that's great. If not, if it's a really hard matchup, just find a new guy. Just find someone that has a great matchup, that's what I'm saying.
Your wide receivers, okay. Got a great guy in Odell. Corey Davis in Tennessee, it's questionable. Marcus Mariota likes throwing to him, but
he's a young guy. He was drafted, I do believe, in the first round.
Yep.
So they believe the talent's there, and they don't have much else for wide receivers. So
he's gonna get numbers.
Yeah.
But it's gonna be spotty. You're gonna hit some here and there.
Agree.
Emmanuel Sanders is your last starting wide receiver. He's the number 2 guy in Denver, and he's behind Demaryius Thomas. Demaryius is the deep threat guy. Emmanuel Sanders is the slot guy. So you're going to get a lot more points from the PPR side of this guy than the yardage and touchdown. But I think he's a solid pick. He's always put up good numbers when he's healthy. Remember, he wasn't completely healthy last year,
Nope.
So you've got to be careful. If he's starting to get injuries early in the season, you might want to start trying to trade him away or try and find a replacement before things get too bad.
I got nothing to add to that. That's exactly what I was feeling.
In your flex, you got Cooper Kupp right now, and for the Rams, Jared Goff likes the guy. He's a good deep threat. He's fast, good solid player, and you got Chris Godwin in Tampa Bay, like Kyle said before. He came in and probably took over Deshaun Jackson's role, so you never know. He could put up some big numbers this year. Good guy to have on your bench.
You agree?
And you drafted Terrell Williams, but you dropped him to free agency for John Ross in Cincinnati.
I love it. Actually, I love it.
Good pick.
He's a fast guy, and there's been a lot of news coming out that he's not just a fast guy. He can run really good routes. And he's the number 2 there, and Andy Dalton has to throw some beside AJ Green. So I love it. I love that pick. It's a really good depth piece to have. A good breakout.
Now, the one big question mark is your tight end, Jack Doyle. You can find someone better on the waiver wire, probably.
It's true.
If not, don't worry. Someone's probably going to drop a tight end at some point for a bye.
Or someone could break out.
Or someone could break out. just be aware that's the one position that you really need to look out for.
Yep.
So, with all that being said, I have you ranked number 8 in the league right now because some good players, a little bit of management needed, and some gaps to fill here and there.
I have you ranked at number 10. The wide receivers were decent. They're all right. But the running backs, you took 2 guys that I think were being drafted a little bit higher than they should have. I don't think either of them is going to just destroy and win you a week. Which is something really looking forward in that position. And then your tight end is really weak. All in all, it's an okay team. It has a good backbone, and so if you could, expand it and add to it, it would be really good.
All right. Next, we're finally on to the double-digit picks with 10, with Drew Hank's team, One Ball Wonder.
One Ball Wonder.
Later in the season, hopefully we get some of these guys on call for us when we do the live videos, and I'm going to ask him then to explain his team name. Hopefully he gives us a story behind it, because it is kind of interesting.
Yeah, I'm hoping it's not a personal story.
Trust me, he likes to make some jokes about it, so if not, he'll say an inside joke. Wink, wink.
Oh, God.
All right, solid team, not bad. His starting running backs, Melvin Gordon and Dion Lewis. Melvin Gordon, solid guy, Chargers, good production all year, no worries. Dion Lewis, though, in Tennessee.
That's another X
Stay
for me.
away from the Tennessee running backs because you never know. Fortunately, I like Dion a little bit better than Derrick Henry.
In a half-point PPR, I think I agree. I think even that half-point, I think they'll basically get the same amount of yards. But having that half-point per catch is really going to change things. I don't think either of them can really be worth their draft position. I think he'll make RB2 like half the time, but I don't think half the time he'll even make RB2 numbers.
But the good thing is, in your flex right now, you have Jamal Williams for Green Bay. You're probably going to want to switch him into your running back 2 role, and you've got Aaron Jones on your bench. So if anything does happen, Aaron Jones comes back and takes over that starter role again.
That's a very safe handcuff. I mean, getting the Green Bay running back is always going to help. Hopefully, you can realize what the better one is quickly within that suspension time so that you can quickly get one off your bench and then add something.
So, not bad running backs, but still need some work. Wide receivers, A.J. Green, always a great pick. Josh Gordon for Cleveland. If he's there, I'm not saying physically like
he's not starting week 1, but he's Josh Gordon.
You have to give it to him. He's Josh Gordon. But like you said, he's not starting week 1. But if he has to be mentally there, he's been out of football for a while. Although he's been playing with the first team in the preseason, he's been practicing well. He still needs to be there mentally on game day, and that's the big thing you have to be concerned about this year. You got Nelson Aguilar too. Not a bad pick. He's a solid guy for Philly, but not the best option there.
Alshon Jeffrey's hurt, and they're going to look to someone, and he's, I think, the best wide receiver, maybe even with Alshon, but now he's going to really get the looks for it. So he could turn into a wide receiver 1, though the problem is you're going to have Nick Foles for the beginning for who knows how long. I've heard people predict he could be up to a month. And even when Carson Wentz is there, he spreads the ball around a lot. So I'm not hep on any Eagles wide receiver unless you get Nelson Aguilar late.
And so the other good thing for you is you did take Alshon Jeffrey, even though he was injured. That way, when he does come back, if you do get back,
he's all about these handcuffs.
He's playing the handcuff game this year. So if he comes back and produces with Alshon instead of Nelson Aguilar, good option to have both.
He also has Zach Ertz, so
you have Zach Ertz, so you have another passing option on that Eagles offense who loves to throw the ball around, especially with that questionable running game this year.
I'm going to assume that he's doing the idea of find out who's the guy and then drop the guy who's not the guy, because he also has Michael Gallup and Cole Beasley.
Well, for me personally, I love Cole Beasley because not number. I don't think he's ever produced it number-wise these last few years. But if you watch Dallas's offense, Dak Prescott loves throwing Cole Beasley out of the slot. And in a PPR league, that's not a bad thing. But he hasn't produced the numbers this year with these last few years with the touchdowns and yardages. He's gotten the looks, but he needs to produce off them.
I actually love the Michael Gallup side of this. I think he is the best wide receiver on the roster, though he's not technically being seen as their wide receiver one. I think by the end of the season he could be seen as the wide receiver one and given the opportunities. And Dak's still young, so he's still willing to throw to new guys. So we'll see.
So the last wide receiver on your bench is, I personally can say, I know you did this just to do it. You picked Dez Bryant. Picking Dez just because he's Dez. I can't knock you for it because I know once the season starts, if he's not on a team, you'll drop him and pick someone else. I've no doubt about that. But
he swears he's coming back, but he's the only one swearing it.
Just like Colin Kaepernick swears he should be playing.
Alright.
I almost took him as my last pick in the draft tonight, but Jimmy Garoppolo is your backup. My San Francisco 49er quarterback, solid guy, like it.
I don't mind it.
Now, I've got you placed at 5th because I see a lot of good potential in this team, especially when guys start coming back. You drop whoever you want and pick someone else up. I see a solid team come week 4 or 5 once everyone's healthy.
I have him as number 9. I don't see a real backbone to this besides maybe A.J. Green and Melvin Gordon. They're going to be sustainable. Even Tom Brady as a quarterback isn't consistent. He doesn't always produce quarterback one numbers. I think it was like half the time he had quarterback one numbers last year. And while he does have the yards, he's not. I don't think it's a very consistent team. I think your points each week will just go up and down and up and down, and I do not love that.
So I think good management, good consistent management where you're constantly watching your team is going to really help you this year. I think once a week, twice a week, even that might not be enough to really keep your team up there.
He might have the biggest waiver wire job in this entire league.
Yeah. All right. The 11th pick, Tyler's team. Tyler Keeley, please get a name for your team. You've definitely got some guys that you can pick from.
Maybe he's mad for being called most unattractive.
No, I think that unattractive is relevant. We're all 6s and above. He was just a dead 6.
I imagine myself as a 6.2.
So there you go, 6 to 6.2. We're all in there. All right, Tyler's team. Running backs: Leonard Fournette, Kareem Hunt, solid guys. Kareem Hunt, big breakout year last year. Let's see if he can continue that. In a good offense, I think he can. But I think he's going to be dependent on his quarterback this year if they're going to have to run the ball more, or if Patrick Mahomes can open up some opportunities for him.
I don't see Patrick Mahomes as being a great dump-off guy either. So I think that'll just decrease. It was good, but I don't think he's great. I think he's okay. He's okay. That's all I can say about him.
So the other running backs you got on your roster, and your flex right now, Kenyon Drake from Miami. Not a bad guy. They don't really have much offense down there, so you might see him run the ball a little more to try and keep the interceptions down with a quarterback who's not really that good.
Adam Gase says he wants to give him the ball a ton, loves the guy, wants to have the entire script go through him, so he could be amazing. I mean, I do believe Kenyon Drake is a really good player. He's just not with a good team. And, teams without, high offenses don't usually have great running backs in fantasy.
Latavius Murray's on your bench, too. I mean, if anything happened to Dalvin Cook, he's the guy, but I don't see him getting big numbers, even in a passing red zone opportunities. He's not really great, but you never know. If something happens to Dalvin, maybe it's good to have him. But the one running back you have on your bench who's probably going to go in your starting lineup week 1, James Conner.
Did he pick him up, or did he have him?
He drafted him.
Wow.
So either a little bit of luck, some really good foresight, seeing that Le'Veon's going to be out. If Le'Veon's out to week 11, like he max could before his opportunity to get free agency, James Conner might get 10 to 11, 9 to 10 games of good work for Pittsburgh, who love to spread the ball around, who love to run and pound it down their opponent's throat. And this might have been the best pick of the draft, given how late it probably was. This was probably one of your last picks, probably second to last.
The last pick.
Might have been your second to last pick. This might have been one of the best picks of the draft this year. Getting that guy before the waiver wire.
I agree. It was good, especially when we had the free agent auction budget. You can save that money and just know that you have the guy.
Now your wide receivers, starters, not great, but your depth isn't bad. You've got Juju Smith-Schuster. He's a good wide receiver. He's playing
good.
behind Antonio Brown. He's going to get looks,
I see
but he's not the number one there.
His points to be capped because of Antonio and because of Le'Veon when he comes back.
You got Sammy Watkins in Kansas City again.
A second.
He's going to get capped off by Tyreek Hill. You got Pierre Garçon in San Francisco again,
also a second.
capped by Marquise Goodwin. And on your bench, you've got Kelvin Benjamin in Buffalo, an offense that's
trash.
He said it.
Fight me, Bills Mafia. Fight me.
DJ Moore, who for Carolina is going to be huge this year. Like he said before, he's a good player, solid player, and look for him to break into your starting lineup, especially early on in the season.
Later on in the year, I'd say. Once he builds that rapport, he needs to get there first.
I think 4 or 5 games in, he'll have it.
I'm alright with that.
I think that's early in the season still. Hopefully you're still winning games at that point. Now, your quarterback starter, Matt Stafford, I like him. Solid guy. Some down weeks last year where he didn't produce big numbers, and he didn't produce really high games, but he did do about top 8.
I think that's what you get from Matt Stafford. He's not one of those quarterbacks who'll just win your week or something, or that'll just throw 10 points your way. He's just consistent. It's not a good-looking pick, but it's safe, and sometimes what you would need in a team.
You've got Dak Prescott on your bench too, which I like. If he gets back to his rookie year numbers, he's going to be definitely your starter after a few weeks, but he's definitely one of the bigger questions at quarterback this year.
I agree.
All right. Tight end Evan Ingram and Cameron Brate, both guys that are going to get looks. Evan Ingram, especially in New York, he's going to get looks, some red zone looks. But don't count on him to produce huge numbers with Odell Beckham back and Saquon Barkley now on the team. He's a solid option, but don't be surprised when he doesn't cap more than 15 points at all this season.
I agree. He's good skill-wise, but he's not going to be getting all the opportunities.
And the one advantage you have over everyone in the league is your kicker and Greg Zuerlein. Greg the
Greg
leg.
the leg, let's go.
Great pick, love it. Try, even if he's on a bye, try not to drop him because someone else will pick him up. He's worth that much. Yeah. With all that being said, I had you ranked number 10 because there are a lot of questions with your backup running backs and your wide receiver depth. It's not that strong, and I don't see a lot of opportunity to trade. So I have you at 10 right now.
I have you at number 8. So we're pretty close. You're in the back half. That bench could use some work, and you're starting running backs and you're starting wide receivers. I mean, your starting running backs are good, but they're just not amazing, and then your starting wide receivers, they're just. You have all these 2s, and you need at least a 1.
All right. Well, now on to the last team, the Deflatriots. Brian Bond. Yes, his last name is Bond. I said the same thing.
Just like the James.
Don't name your kid that. Don't do it.
Do it.
All right. Running backs. Starters. Royce Freeman, guy for Denver, starter. I mean, that offense isn't great. Maybe they're going to run the ball a little more. Maybe they're not going to run it as much. Big question. It's kind of hard to say.
I like Royce Freeman. He reached for him, I have to admit. But he's good. He was just recently in the starter. It was scary at first that he wasn't the starter. But he's good. I do believe this Denver team will be better than they were last year with Case Keenum, and I could see him doing all right. I think he'll do better in later years, but he'll get the crack at it.
Now, his other starting running back right now is Alfred Morris because he drafted Jerick McKinnon, who unfortunately tore his ACL and is out for the year. And so this is where our free agent auction budget came into play early this year. He spent $25 out of his 100 to secure his replacement, and that's huge. He's already at a huge disadvantage.
Money, but I really respect the play. He recognized that he's the one that turned him from this, and he needs to go get the replacement, and so he did, and I respect it.
And so on your bench right now, running backs, you've got Marlon Mack, who's not the starter in Indianapolis, but if you keep him on your bench, you better hope that he takes over that role.
He's injured, so maybe when he comes back from injury, they'll give him the chance. But if Jordan Wilkins is just running things over there, I don't see that happening. So you better hope that Jordan Wilkins comes out really, really bad.
And you've got Nick Chubb on Cleveland. This guy was a great player in college for Georgia, but he's playing behind Carlos Hyde and Duke Johnson right now. Unless he gets traded away to another team, which I don't see happening, you're going to probably want to get rid of him because he's not going to get much looks this year.
I agree. He's the third back in not amazing situations, so not for me.
Your wide receivers are a little bit more, I don't want to say good looking, but you got Julio. Always a good option. Matt Ryan, deep threat. Julio's always good. Jarvis Landry in Cleveland. I think he's going to be the number one option this year. He's going to get a lot of looks.
I think he'll get the most targets. He won't have much in terms of touchdowns because he's just not a red zone guy. But I think he'll get the most targets in that team, so he'll get the PPR aspect pretty well done.
Robert Woods for the Rams.
Now that's your touchdown guy.
That's your touchdown guy. A lot of yards for him, not as many receptions, but look for him to really break out, especially teams with bad safeties, bad cornerbacks. He's going to beat them down the field all day, take advantage of those matchups. You've got Will Fuller for Houston, like Kyle said before. He's probably going to be the deep threat there again. Touchdown guy, watch for those matchups.
He's got Gronk. That's the big one.
That's your player this year.
You reached for him, too.
So, you got him a little early, and it might work out. Because what I'm going to say right now is you might want to look to use him in a trade to boost the rest of your roster because he's a very attractive player to a lot of guys in the league because everyone knows Tom Brady loves him. The Patriots offense loves to throw to their tight ends. But you might want to get two solid players for Gronk if you can pick up another good tight end on the waiver wire.
I'm looking at this bench, and you might actually need some help there. So this trade might not be terrible as long as you get a lot of value out of it because it's Gronk. I talked to Ryan about this pick, and he said flat out it's fantasy football, and to do well and to win, you kind of have to take some risks, and so he took a big risk, and he drafted Gronk early, and he believes that he'll have a healthy season, which is unlikely, knowing Gronk.
He's played one healthy season in his NFL career, and that was his first season.
He believes in it. I'm hoping for you, Ryan, and for my team.
And so, your bench doesn't look very, very good. D.D. Westbrook is another wide receiver, and Jake Butt as your tight end from Denver. Your bench isn't great, so you definitely need to do a lot of work.
Your bench is butt.
So your starting quarterback, Big Ben Roethlisberger, solid guy, a little older, so hopefully injuries don't start plaguing him, but I don't think you have to worry about that behind a strong Pittsburgh offensive line that's always protected him. And on your bench, Derek Carr for Oakland. I like him as a player. He has I see a lot of talent there.
No.
I see a lot of talent there with a guy who hasn't been put in a good system form in the last few years. I see him being one of those guys who can lead Oakland back to the playoffs. But fantasy-wise, I don't see a lot of value in him because he doesn't have. He's got Amari Cooper, Jordy Nelson's his number 2. Doesn't really have a running back. Doesn't really have a tight end. I think he's not a great option, even though I think he's a good player.
Whether or not he's a good player, he's not great at fantasy, and that's my final say.
All right. And so, with all that, I think we're probably going to agree on this one too. I have you ranked number 12, last in the league right now.
I love you, Ryan. I have you ranked last 2, though. It's just not there. The starters aren't strong. The bench isn't strong. I just don't see where you're gonna win week to week. If you put yourself compared to many other teams for matchup, you don't have any positional advantages. And where you do, it's not significant to the point that I think it could win you a league or even a week. So I love you, bud, but it's just not there for me.
Alright guys, well that concludes our draft recap for the year. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Hopefully you guys took a lot of information out of it. If you guys have any questions or comments for us, feel free to ask them in the comments below. And we're also going to put a link to our league, which is publicly viewable on Yahoo. So you can follow us there, follow what we're doing, follow how the league is going, see the matchups week to week. And hopefully we'll see you guys again next week.
What we will be doing normally is matchups for the upcoming week and matchups that happened the past week. Obviously this is a long video, so we're not going to do that now. We'll probably try to get those up pretty shortly afterwards. That'll be the average. Talk about trades and everything like that. Any questions or discussions? Try to get some people in the league actually on the podcast to talk about it. So. Yeah, that's us.
Alright guys, this is Wannabe Studs, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.